Do you work here? Yes, I'm the manager. How can I assist you? Manager? Do you have any ID on you? I don't need identification to stand inside my store. What is how to what?
At 10:45 p.m. on a Friday night in Seattle, Officer Brandon Tucker entered Elliott Bay Books expecting to investigate a trespassing complaint. What he didn't realize was that the black man he was about to detain was not a trespasser. He was Eric Brown, the store's general manager, who had worked there for 12 years and held a Ph.D. in African American literature from Stanford. The store's security cameras were recording everything. Every word, every assumption, every moment of humiliation. And what unfolded over the next 18 minutes would cost Officer Tucker his badge and the city $860,000. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below. And if you believe people deserve to work without harassment, hit that subscribe button because this story is unbelievable. Elliott Bay Books is located in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood, an independent bookstore that has been a community staple since 1973. 3 floors filled with books, author events, reading groups, and community gatherings. It's the kind of place where people spend hours browsing, where staff recommendations matter, where books are sold through passion and knowledge. Eric Brown, 41, started at Elliott Bay as a part-time bookseller while completing his Ph.D. at the University of Washington. That was 12 years earlier. He grew to love the job, the conversations with readers, the joy of connecting people with the right book, and the community built around literature. He was promoted to section manager after 2 years, then assistant general manager after 5, and finally general manager 3 years ago. He supervised a staff of 28 employees. He handled inventory, scheduling, events, and community partnerships. He increased revenue by 37% through creative programming and outreach. Eric held a Ph.D. in African American literature. His dissertation focused on James Baldwin's influence on modern black writers. He published articles in academic journals and was invited to speak at conferences. He could have pursued a traditional academic career, but instead chose bookstore management. Why? Because he believed in making literature accessible. He believed books should be for everyone, not just students in universities. He believed in creating spaces where diverse voices were highlighted, where marginalized authors were celebrated, and where readers of all backgrounds felt welcome. Under Eric's leadership, Elliott Bay became known for its outstanding African American literature section. He curated one of the most extensive collections on the West Coast. He brought in authors for readings and discussions. He created programs for young black readers. He turned the store into a hub for black literary culture in Seattle. That Friday night, Eric was closing the store. As general manager, it was his responsibility. He had sent most of the staff home at 10 p.m. Only he and 2 booksellers remained, finishing tasks, shelving returns, organizing displays, and preparing the registers for deposit. Eric was in the back stockroom checking inventory on a shipment of new releases. He wore his usual work attire, black jeans, a button-down shirt, and an Elliott Bay Books employee name tag that clearly read Eric Brown, general manager. At 10:30 p.m., one of the booksellers, a young white woman named Natalie Rivera, approached him. "Eric, there's a woman out front asking to speak with the manager. She seems really upset. She says someone has been following her around the store. She's scared." Eric sighed. This wasn't unusual. Sometimes customers became uncomfortable, often due to their own biases, and complained about someone who was simply shopping. He walked out to the main floor. The woman, later identified as Sharon Phelps, stood near the register. She was white, in her mid-60s, visibly agitated. When she saw Eric, her eyes widened. "Are you the manager?" "Yes, ma'am. I'm Eric Brown, the general manager. I understand you have a concern." Sharon looked him up and down. Her expression shifted from anxiety to suspicion. "You're the manager? Since when?" "I've been the general manager for 3 years. Before that, I was assistant general manager. I've worked here for 12 years total." "Well, someone has been following me. A black man lurking, making me uncomfortable." Eric felt his stomach sink. He immediately understood what had happened. "Ma'am, I've been in the stockroom for the past 20 minutes. Was it someone on the sales floor? I don't know where you were, but someone was watching me, and I want him removed." Eric kept his tone professional. "Ma'am, our security cameras cover the entire store. If someone was actually following you, we can review the footage. But I can assure you all of our customers tonight have been behaving normally. I know what I saw. I'm calling the police." "That's your right, ma'am. But please understand that making false accusations about customers is something we take seriously. Sharon pulled out her phone and dialed 911. She reported that she felt threatened at Elliott Bay Books by a man claiming to be the manager who refused to help her. Eric stood there listening as she distorted reality, knowing exactly how this would unfold. He had lived in America as a black man for 41 years. He understood. Officer Brandon Tucker arrived 8 minutes later. He was 32 and had spent 5 years with the Seattle Police Department. He grew up in Spokane, a community that was 89% white. He joined Seattle PD with ideas about urban crime shaped by television and assumptions. His record showed problems. 7 complaints in 5 years, most involving confrontations with people of color in predominantly white spaces, allegations of excessive force, demands for identification without cause, and aggressive behavior during routine encounters. 2 complaints were sustained, leading to retraining that failed to change his behavior. Tucker entered Elliott Bay Books with his hand resting on his duty belt, scanning the store as if it were a crime scene. He saw Sharon Phelps near the register, visibly relieved, and Eric Brown, a black man in casual clothing, standing nearby with a name tag identifying him as general manager. Tucker's mind made an immediate judgment shaped by bias. The white woman was the victim. The black man was the threat. Name tag or not, do you think employees should have to prove they work somewhere because of their race? Comment below. Tucker walked past Eric without acknowledgement and went straight to Sharon. Ma'am, I'm Officer Tucker. You called about a disturbance. Yes, officer. I was shopping and someone was following me, making me feel unsafe. And when I asked for the manager, this man, she gestured toward Eric, claimed to be the manager and acted aggressively. Tucker turned toward Eric. Do you work here? Eric took a breath. This was it. Yes, I'm the manager. Eric Brown. I've worked here for 12 years. Manager? Do you have ID on you? I don't need identification to stand inside my own store. What is this about? Someone reported a suspicious person in the back. That person is you. So let's see some ID. Eric felt the familiar mix of anger and humiliation. Officer, I'm wearing a name tag that clearly identifies me as the general manager. I've already explained who I am. My employees can confirm it. I'm not showing identification just for doing my job in my workplace. Tucker stepped closer, using his presence to intimidate. I'm conducting an investigation. I need to see identification now. Investigation of what? I'm the manager. I'm working. There's no crime here. Natalie Rivera, watching from behind the register, spoke up. Officer, that's Eric. He's definitely the manager. He's my boss. He's worked here for years. Tucker ignored her. Sir, if you refuse to provide identification, I will detain you for obstruction. Obstruction of what? There's no investigation. A customer made a false complaint because she's uncomfortable seeing a black man in a bookstore. That's not a crime. That's racism. And you're participating in it by demanding my ID when I'm clearly an employee standing in my workplace wearing my name tag. Your attitude makes me think she was right to call. Let's step outside. I'm not stepping outside. I'm working. I'm the manager of this store, and you have no legal right to force me to leave my workplace. Tucker's hand moved toward his handcuffs. You're being detained for refusing to cooperate with a police investigation. Eric's voice rose. What investigation? What crime do you believe has been committed here? Trespassing. She says you don't work here and are refusing to leave. I do work here. I'm the general manager. My name tag says so. My employees have confirmed it, and you're choosing to believe a customer who is lying because she's uncomfortable around black people. Tucker grabbed Eric's arm. Turn around and put your hands behind your back. Natalie Rivera shouted from behind the register. Officer, you can't arrest him. He works here. This is insane. The other bookseller, Kevin Hahn, pulled out his phone and began recording. I'm documenting this. This is wrong. Tucker saw the phone. Put that away or you'll be arrested too. Kevin continued recording. No, sir. I have the right to record police activity in public. Eric felt Tucker's grip tighten painfully on his arm. I am not resisting, but I want everyone here to understand that I am being arrested for being black in my own workplace. I am being arrested because a racist customer made a false report, and this officer chose to believe her instead of my staff, my name tag, and basic logic. Tucker forced Eric's hands behind his back and placed the handcuffs on tightly. The metal dug into Eric's wrists. He heard Natalie gasp. He heard Kevin continue recording. He heard Sharon Phelps say, I knew something was wrong with him. Tucker escorted Eric toward the door. As they passed the register, Eric spoke loudly. Someone call my boss, Allison Pierce. Tell her what's happening. And someone finished closing the store. Natalie, you know the procedures. Kevin, keep recording everything. Tucker pushed Eric outside toward the patrol car. The Seattle night was cold and damp. Pedestrians on the street stopped to watch. Some began recording. Eric spoke clearly so everyone could hear. My name is Eric Brown. I am the general manager of Elliott Bay Books. I earned a PhD from Stanford. I've been employed at this store for 12 years. I'm being taken into custody by Officer Tucker for the offense of being black inside my own workplace. A customer made a false report because she felt uneasy. Officer Tucker chose to trust her accusations instead of my employees confirming that I work there. This is racial profiling. This is a misuse of authority. Please share this. Have you ever been told you didn't belong somewhere you absolutely did? Share your experience in the comments. Tucker opened the rear door of his patrol vehicle and forced Eric inside. The hard plastic seat, the odor, the degrading feeling of being confined. Eric had never been arrested before. He had never even received a traffic citation. And now he was sitting handcuffed in the back of a police car for simply managing a bookstore. The ride to the East Precinct lasted 9 minutes. Tucker remained silent. Eric observed everything mentally, timestamps, statements, actions. He had spent his entire adult life documenting situations. As a black man in America, you learn to document. At the station, Tucker escorted Eric inside. The desk sergeant, a black woman named Lieutenant Denise Walker, looked up. Her expression changed instantly when she saw Eric in cuffs. Tucker, what is this? Suspected trespassing and obstruction. Subject refused to leave Elliott Bay Books and became aggressive during questioning. Walker stood up. She had served in Seattle PD for 19 years. She recognized a wrongful arrest immediately. Elliott Bay Books. The bookstore on Capitol Hill. Yeah. Got a complaint from a customer who said he was following her and pretending to be the manager. Walker turned to Eric. Sir, what happened from your perspective? Eric spoke clearly and calmly. My name is Eric Brown. I am the general manager of Elliott Bay Books. I've worked there for 12 years. I hold a PhD in African American literature from Stanford. I was closing the store when a customer claimed someone was following her. She felt uncomfortable because she saw a black man shopping. When I identified myself as the manager, she called the police. Officer Tucker arrived, refused to accept my name tag or my employee's confirmation, demanded ID, and arrested me when I questioned his authority. Everything is recorded on security cameras and my employee's phone. Walker's face hardened. You arrested a store manager at his own job? He was being uncooperative. Remove those cuffs. Now. Tucker hesitated. Walker's voice cut sharply through the room. I said now. You arrested a man for working at his own job. Take them off. Tucker unlocked the handcuffs. Eric rubbed his wrists, already bruised and red. Walker picked up her phone. Within minutes, the watch commander arrived. Captain Peter Ling, a 28-year veteran. Mr. Brown, I'm Captain Ling. On behalf of the Seattle Police Department, I sincerely apologize. This should never have happened. Eric nodded. Your apology is acknowledged. But Officer Tucker needs to understand that arresting someone for being black in their own workplace isn't policing. It's racism with a badge. Ling turned toward Tucker. You're suspended immediately. Report to my office tomorrow morning. Tucker's face drained of color. I was following procedure. You arrested a manager at his own store based on a biased complaint. That is not procedure. That is a civil rights violation. Get out of my sight. Lieutenant Walker personally drove Eric back to the bookstore. She apologized repeatedly along the way. When they arrived, the store remained open. Natalie and Kevin were still there. So was the owner, Allison Pierce, along with several loyal customers who had come to support Eric. Allison hugged him tightly. I'm so sorry. This is unacceptable. We're suing. This is going public. By midnight, the story had spread across social media. Kevin's recording had already been shared thousands of times. Manager arrested at his own bookstore was trending locally. By morning, it became national news. The store's surveillance footage was undeniable. It showed Sharon Phelps browsing normally. It showed Eric in the stockroom, nowhere near her. It captured her false 911 call. It showed Tucker ignoring clear evidence and arresting Eric. But it also revealed something else. Sharon Phelps had stolen 3 books, slipping them into her bag. The irony was undeniable. She claimed fear while committing an actual crime. Within 48 hours, the footage had over 12 million views. Civil rights organizations demanded accountability. The hashtag Eric Brown trended nationwide. The police department released a standard statement, but the evidence spoke louder. Should people face charges for making false police reports driven by bias? Share your thoughts. The internal investigation lasted 4 weeks. Every frame of footage was reviewed. Tucker was interviewed multiple times. His record was examined. Sharon admitted she felt uncomfortable, but couldn't explain why. She was also charged with shoplifting. The Internal Affairs report detailed everything. Tucker failed to verify the complaint. He ignored clear proof Eric was an employee. He demanded ID without legal basis. He made an arrest without probable cause. The report also revealed a pattern: 15 stops in mostly white neighborhoods involving black individuals, none involving white individuals. The disparity was undeniable. Tucker was terminated 6 weeks later. His dismissal cited racial profiling, unlawful arrest, and conduct damaging to the department's reputation. His appeal failed. Sharon Phelps pleaded guilty to filing a false report and shoplifting. She received community service, mandatory training, and a fine. Eric filed a federal lawsuit. The case was clear. It settled for $860,000, with an additional $50,000 from Phelps Insurance. Eric donated $200,000 to anti-discrimination efforts and used the rest to create scholarships for black students entering publishing. But he wanted change, not just compensation. He spoke publicly, wrote essays, and pushed for reforms. His article went viral. He highlighted the system that believed a white customer over a black professional. His proposals led to policy changes in multiple cities. Tucker never worked in law enforcement again. Phelps disappeared from public attention. Elliott Bay Books became a symbol of resilience. Community support surged. Sales increased dramatically. Eric remained as manager, expanding programs and opportunities. But things were different now. He installed panic buttons. He trained staff for difficult encounters. He created protocols for police interactions. The store updated policies. Staff documented bias complaints immediately. Security footage retention was extended significantly. Employee badges were redesigned to be larger, clearer, and to prominently display titles, so there could be no confusion. Elliott Bay Books also shifted how it handled customer complaints. When someone reported another person as suspicious, staff were trained to ask direct follow-up questions. What exactly did you observe? What behavior concerned you? Most of the time, customers couldn't point to anything specific beyond feeling uncomfortable with someone's presence. Those complaints were dismissed. The bookstore community stood firmly behind Eric. Independent bookstores across the country reached out in solidarity. Authors dedicated works to him. Publishers released statements condemning the arrest. The literary world recognized that what happened to Eric could happen to anyone. Eric used the attention to speak about larger systemic issues. He highlighted how few black professionals hold leadership roles in publishing, how uncommon it is to see black faces in positions of authority within bookstores, despite the industry's progressive image. His arrest exposed deeper assumptions about who is perceived as belonging in cultural spaces. He launched a podcast titled Reading While Black, where he interviewed black authors, publishers, and booksellers about their experiences navigating predominantly white literary environments. The podcast quickly gained a wide audience beyond the book industry and sparked meaningful discussions about diversity and representation. Eric also partnered with universities to create internship opportunities for black students interested in publishing and book selling. His goal was to change the industry from within and ensure that future generations could see themselves represented in positions of influence. The arrest impacted Eric not only professionally but personally. He spoke openly about the trauma, the recurring nightmares of being handcuffed again, the anxiety whenever police entered the store, the constant need to keep his credentials visible, and the exhaustion of always having to prove he belonged. He sought therapy to process everything. His therapist reassured him that his reactions were valid, that being arrested for existing in your own workplace, having your identity questioned, leaves lasting psychological effects, and that anger years later is completely justified. His family felt the impact deeply. His parents, who had worked their entire lives to support his education, were devastated. His mother cried after watching the footage. His father, a retired postal worker, reflected on his own lifetime of encounters with law enforcement. The shared experience of never being automatically presumed innocent. Eric's partner, journalist Daniel Ortiz, wrote a powerful essay about witnessing someone you love being dehumanized, about the anger of seeing handcuffs on someone innocent, about the fear that in a different situation with a different officer, things could have turned deadly. The essay won a journalism award and amplified the conversation even further. In interviews, Eric spoke candidly about the emotional toll. "I have a PhD from Stanford," he told one reporter. "I've worked there for 12 years. I was wearing my name tag. My employees confirmed who I was. And it still wasn't enough. Because to that officer, my credentials couldn't outweigh my skin color. That's what it means to work while black in America." The cameras that recorded everything are still installed. Still recording. Eric reviews the footage every night, not because he expects crime, but because he understands that for black Americans, documentation is protection. Do you think workplace arrests like this reveal deeper biases about who we believe belongs? Share your thoughts. That Friday night at 9:45 p.m., Officer Brandon Tucker entered a bookstore expecting to investigate a trespassing complaint. He saw a black man and assumed guilt. He ignored the name tag, ignored employee verification, ignored logic. He arrested a PhD holder for doing his job. Eric did everything right. He identified himself. He remained calm. His staff confirmed his role. And he was arrested anyway. Because in that moment, to that officer, a black man in a position of authority seemed suspicious. The surveillance footage captured it all. 18 minutes, showing a respected manager treated like a criminal in his own workplace. It showed what happens when bias overrides evidence, when assumptions replace facts, when authority is misused. Tucker's career ended because he couldn't accept that a black man could be a manager, could be educated, could belong. He couldn't accept that the customer might be wrong. He believed his badge gave him the right to act without question. One career ended because of 18 minutes of documented bias. One manager transformed humiliation into advocacy. One bookstore became a symbol of resistance against harmful assumptions. The reforms that followed didn't eliminate workplace profiling entirely, but they introduced accountability for customers who misuse police and officers who act on bias. They showed that cameras can preserve truth when systems fail. Eric still manages Elliott Bay Books. The cameras still run. His name tag still reads General Manager. But now there's a deeper awareness that credentials alone don't always protect you. That even proof isn't always enough. That working while black often means being prepared to justify your presence. He now wears a second badge displaying both his title and his doctorate. "I shouldn't have to," he said. "But until the assumptions that led to my arrest are gone, I'm making my credentials impossible to ignore." What's your biggest takeaway from this story? Have you ever felt the need to overprove yourself because of how you look? Share your thoughts below. And if you believe these stories matter, if you think accountability starts with awareness and change begins by exposing injustice, subscribe. We're going to keep uncovering these patterns. Keep demanding better. Keep standing for workers and individuals who deserve to exist without suspicion. This isn't just about one officer, one manager, or one bookstore. It's about the assumptions we all make about who belongs. Do we accept a world where black professionals must constantly prove they're not criminals? Where name tags and verification don't matter? Where cameras are necessary because truth alone isn't believed? Or do we choose a world where bias is challenged, where investigations are based on facts, where false reports have consequences, and where everyone has the right to work without fear? The cameras captured everything. Now the question is what we do with that truth. Thanks for watching to the end. Share this with someone who needs to understand what workplace discrimination really looks like. Let's keep the conversation going. See you in the next one.